Welcome to the High Performance Gym, the personal and business development podcast for health coaches and personal trainers. My name is Keir, former personal trainer and gym owner turned high performance coach and lifestyle entrepreneur. My mission is to help coaches develop their entrepreneurial qualities and the business to create a freedom-focused lifestyle. I believe we all have a uniqueness that we need to unleash to achieve this, and this is your genius. Each week I'll be bringing you an inspiring person or message to help you perform at a higher level so you can become a confident and resilient coach to build the business of your dreams. So thanks for tuning in today, and I hope you enjoy the show. Hello and welcome to today's podcast. Thank you for being here. In just a few days I'm going to be 40 years old. I can't believe that in 3 days I'm going to be turning 40. That is a scary prospect. It really is. But I've learned so much in those 40 years of life. I really have. I've learned so much. I'm only just getting started. I love learning new concepts of everything. Just everything related to business and life and personal performance. You know, performing as an individual at the best you can in life. And one of those things, one of the biggest things that I've learned, one of the biggest things that I've come across, and what I'm going to talk about today on today's podcast, is productivity. Not so much productivity. Well, it helps with productivity, but it is kind of productivity. It's about understanding like how you can perform at your very best, and it starts off with what gets the most attention in the world is, especially in the entrepreneurial world, if you're building a business, is not just building a business, but any kind of endeavour that it requires all of you, and it requires you to be productive, and it requires you to be on your A game, it requires you to be the best you can be. This is a morning routine. Now, morning routines are very, very sexy. There's a lot of people are actually selling courses on morning routines, which I find a little bit bizarre, but nevertheless, it's a very, very powerful concept, because it's really, a morning routine absolutely just changes the game. This is something I learned probably about 3-4 years ago. I never used to have a morning routine. I was one of these people who used to snooze. I would always press snooze, get up at the very last minute, go down to the gym as fast as I could and open the doors before people got there, hand coffee in one hand, eyes still kind of half closed. And a morning routine was absolutely game changer for me. But actually that's not what I want to talk about in today's podcast, because there's something that's even more important than a morning routine, but isn't quite as sexy, and it doesn't really get that much attention. It does get attention for the people who are looking for it, but when we're talking about, morning routines seem to be the in thing, but there's one thing you need to get in place before a morning routine even matters. And again, this was something that I found actually after the morning routine, and it just completely changed everything. And this is an evening routine. It doesn't sound as sexy, does it? A morning routine sounds nice and sexy. It sounds like, a morning routine, it sounds really sort of, ooh, let's do that. Well, the evening routine is completely different. Evening routine just sounds a bit like, but an evening routine is absolutely critical to your performance, to productivity, and for sleeping well. You're a health coach, you're in the fitness industry, you know how important sleep is. Sleep is critical, not just for health, but for performance as well, from a physical performance, from mental performance. Sleep is absolutely critical. So getting a good evening routine is absolutely essential. And I like Seneca's observations on the way he kind of views things, and this is really ties in nicely with a morning routine and an evening routine. So Seneca, if you don't know who Seneca is, Seneca was kind of a well-renowned Stoic, back in ancient Greece. And his observations was that everything is circular. And what this is kind of illustrating, like the circle, the closing of a loop. Everything kind of opens, everything closes. So it's like a circular, like life and death. You start life and then you die. It's like a circle. Year to year, it's a circle. It starts and it finishes. Month to month. But the smallest circle being your day. Like everything starts and everything starts and inevitably ends. That's just how kind of things are. But we have like full control about how this goes. I mean, you haven't got control about life and death, but you have control about your day. how it starts and how it finishes. And these are the two most important things. And this is the biggest thing I want to highlight. Like, how your day starts and how your day finishes is absolutely critical for what happens in between. Like, in between is when, everything, you live your life, but how you set that day up and how you finish that day is so critical. But yet the unfortunate truth is, for many people, the kind of loop is not consciously closed on the night. Instead, it's kind of extended by or dragged out by late night TV, like social media, hypnotism, scrolling on social and just getting absorbed in that instead of actually getting yourself to bed. Leading to kind of a marathon snooze fest when the alarm rings the following morning. Like, this is just like creating the circle of fatigue and underperforming focus, and as opposed to performing at your very best. And I've got no kind of data on this, but I imagine I don't suppose there's any data on this because if we look back at years and years ago, and now we look at like social media and things, now people are probably staying up later and later because there's the things like TV, these distractions we have on a night, and I have no doubt that this probably shortens the lifespan as well. Yeah, again, I have no data on that, but I wouldn't be surprised in that. So it's about keeping those loops powerful at the beginning and powerful at the end. Now, I'm going to go through, I'm obsessed with morning routines, I have been for years, but I wanted to make this the first one because I do believe that how you finish your day is more important than how you start your day. So I've got 7 habits of a powerful evening routine, and I'm going to go through these now. The very first one, so we're going to take this back. So evening routine, think about this as kind of winding down. A lot of people, when they wind down, what they do is sit in front of the TV and they switch your TV on or they'll go on the phone. This isn't winding down because you're still stimulating your brain. You're still giving your brain things that it's not allowing it to switch off. On a night time, if you can switch off and you can really gather your thoughts and you're going to be more productive for that following day. You're going to be setting yourself for a following day, but by doing this, you're going to have a good night's sleep. It's going to let you rest so much easier. So the first one is to take a walk. So if we think about this, between 60 to 90 minutes before you go to bed, this is when I kind of start my evening routine, like 60 to 90 minutes, just depending on my night. Sometimes it's a little bit later, just depending on the kids. If the kids go down good, then it's all good. If they don't, then that routine gets cut down a little bit because I try to get to bed at the same time every night. This is so important. So the first one that I would do is take a walk. Yeah, just 60 to 90 minutes. Just get outside for 15 to 20 minutes. Longer if you want to, but walking is by far and large the best way to clear some headspace and to gather your thoughts. It kind of takes the stresses out of the day, and it just allows them just to kind of float away into the night. And Seneca, again, go back to Seneca. He wrote, we should take wandering outdoor walks so that the mind might be nourished and refreshed by the open air and deep breathing. Like, Seneca was a big advocate of getting that headspace because he lived in somewhere like Rome. It was very busy and there's a lot of noise. Getting away from the noise was a way to allow him to really gather his thoughts. And it's not just kind of Seneca. You've got the greatest people who ever lived, people like Steve Jobs, Albert Einstein, Charles Darwin. These were like habitual walkers. Whenever they were up against anything kind of stubborn or challenging, they would go for a walk. This would be the answer to the problems. Because when you walk, something magical happens. You just get your heart rate going a little bit, but it just allows you to kind of come alive with your thoughts, to gather the thoughts and really make sense of what's going on in your head. And what you kind of find is there's a lot of noise going on there. Once you start going for a walk, it just eliminates all the noise and it allows you to gather your thoughts and your ideas. And Nikola Tesla, if you heard of Nikola Tesla was a kind of he was a really important kind of scientist long time ago. That's Tesla, the car named Tesla. It's after the namesake of Nikola Tesla. That's where it comes from. But he discovered the rotating magnetic field, and this was one of the most important scientific studies in modern history. And this was during one of his walks through Budapest in 1882. This idea came to him when he was walking. That's how powerful kind of walking is. So walking is really important. So do this on a night time, 60 to 90 minutes before you go to bed. Get outside and just go for a walk. Let your head clear. You never know. You might get the best idea you've ever had in your life. The second one is to write down your 3 next day priorities. Okay, this is not a to-do list because a to-do list just creates a lot of overwhelm. Like, I just don't like to-do lists. You look at the list and you're just like, whoa, it's immediate overwhelm. But at night time, if you write down your 3 biggest priorities for the next day, this is just, it's just game changing for, it just allows you to put that onto paper and leave it. It's like, these are my 3 next priorities for tomorrow. You automatically know what you need to do tomorrow, and it's just allows you to get a restful night's sleep, so you're not tossing and turning about tossing and turning of all these things that you have to do. Just write out 3 main tasks for tomorrow. That is it. 3, 5 maximum. Definitely don't go above 5. 5, I think, could be too many, but definitely go with 3. 3 main tasks. And if you were to get these done, that was all you would need to do. Like those 3 things, if that was all you got done tomorrow, that would be a win. What are your 3 biggest tasks? Yeah. In his book, if you read his book, Brian Tracy, Eat That Frog, explains the importance of tackling the biggest, most challenging task first. Like he calls it the big ugly frog. By prioritizing your main thing, keeps the main thing the main thing. So what Brian Tracy was saying is your biggest task in the morning, or your biggest task, do that first in the morning. So if you write this down and you know what you have to do, when you get up in the morning, you know exactly what you have to do then. There's no second guessing. There's no, like, what do I have to do now? It's like, no, you know, it's there. Do it. Get that biggest thing done. It's out the way. The third one is writing out gratitude. Gratitude is just, we kind of live in a world now where we're always searching for what's missing instead of seeing what we actually have. And gratitude is a really powerful way to create positive psychology. There's a lot of studies on this that kind of shows the benefits of practicing gratitude. But it just, you could do it yourself. If you don't do this, then just write things down. Actually, it just makes you feel good when you do it. It makes you feel appreciative of the things that you've got. And if you can do this before you go to bed, again, it just allows you to, if you've had a really stressful day, maybe things haven't gone right for you, or they just haven't gone the way that you wanted, you can feel quite stressed and irritated and frustrated, then you just write gratitude down. And it's just like, you know what? It just makes you make sense of things. It makes you kind of realize what you have already is so important. And, if you never had that and that was taken away, that would be the worst thing in the world. But you have that. It's like, it could be your family, yourself, your health. You could go into the depths of this. I tend to go quite deep with it sometimes, because it allows you to kind of explore within yourself, like, what you are truly grateful for. And again, this is going to be game changing for a lot of things. So that was your third one, gratitude. The next one, number 4, is write down your 3 biggest wins for the day. There's a book called The Gap and the Gain. This is from Dan Sullivan and Benjamin Hardy. It's a really good group, really good book. This is based on Dan Sullivan's concept of the gap and the gain. This is something that he developed a long time ago, and he works with his clients, and now he's kind of developed a book on his idea. The main part of his idea is that for most people, what they're doing is they measure the success. Most people are in the gap, is what Dan says. Most people in the gap are kind of measuring the success by the ideals. So these are kind of moving goals or moving targets. Like, say you want to achieve something, whatever it is, you're always measuring yourself by that ideal. And what he says, this kind of puts you in the gap, because you're never truly measuring yourself from what you've achieved. Now, what he says with the most successful people measure themselves by being in the gain. And what he means by that is just reflecting back on how far you've come in, say, 90 days or the last 12 months, or maybe the wins that you've got yesterday. It's like saying, okay, do you know what? 90 days ago, I was at this position. 90 days later, I'm in this position. So you're measuring your own progress. You're measuring your progress based on yourself, as opposed to based on your ideals, because we never actually truly achieve those ideas, because these will always change. They're kind of movable. And because they're movable, we're always chasing something that we might never achieve. But if we just measure ourselves based on our previous and saying, you know what, I'm better because of this, I'm better because of that, then this is a more powerful way of progress. And a good way of doing this is just writing down 3 wins for the day. Just 3 wins for the day. What did you learn for the day? What were your day's wins? And it could be anything. It could be something really, really small. It could be just that you maybe had that awkward conversation with someone that you've been avoiding for ages. It could be the fact that you had a really stressful day, and then you've done something, not necessarily wrong, but maybe you've done something and thought, you know what, I shouldn't have done that. So you reframe that and say, do you know what? That's actually a win because I recognize that, and that's something I've learned from. So that is down classed as a win as opposed to a negative. So oh, this didn't happen, that didn't happen. It's like, okay, what can I learn here? And you're marking these things down as a win. So that fourth thing there is just write down 3 wins for the day. The fifth one is, I love this one. It was from, there's a quote by request. Habit 5 is request to your subconscious. Have a request to your subconscious. Again, I write this down. This came from actually a quote by Thomas Edison, who says, don't go to bed without a request to your subconscious. And, I think this was just a really powerful concept, because the subconscious is such an amazing unknown to a certain respect. There's so much we don't know about the brain, and the majority of it happens with the subconscious. The subconscious is like 90% of the brain, and this is where the magic happens. This is when you do all of your learning. This is where all your ideas come from. This is just where everything happens. And I think, before you go to bed at night time, it's like, just give a little bit of request to your subconscious. Just let that sink in. And when you sleep, just let your subconscious just analyze what the request that you give it, and allow it to come up with an answer. Because when you're conscious, you don't really get the answers that you want. Yes, you get these ideas, but the ideas come from the subconscious. Everything that we do kind of comes from these actions, the habitual actions that we've developed, the habits that we have, they all come from the subconscious, the way we've trained our brain. This is why brain training is so important, because we've got to have these things that automatically happen, and this is delivered, or it's driven by the subconscious. So that is just the habit 5 there. So give a request to your subconscious before you go to bed. Number 6, take a warm shower. Why? Because on a nighttime, what happens on a nighttime is, to get sleep, your body needs to cool down. Your body naturally drops, the temperature drops, so you go to sleep on a nighttime. Your body needs to go through a natural period of cooling down. It only drops by sort of like a half a degree or so. On a morning, it does the opposite. On a morning, your body temperature rises. On a nighttime, it decreases. So to actually get this decrease faster, so as you enter sleep, as you enter the phase of the release of sort of melatonin and the buildup of adenosine, when you start getting tired, your body temperature starts to drop. But you can actually speed up this process by taking a warm shower. By taking a warm shower, because you actually heat your body temperature up, what happens is it brings it down faster. So if you can, just before you go to bed, take a nice warm shower, or a jacuzzi, if you're really posh and you've got a hot tub outside, something like that, by jumping into some hot water, I just take a shower, then that brings my body temperature down. So when you go to bed, it just helps promote sleep. And, it's a very, very easy hack. It takes 5 minutes, and it's actually quite pleasant. So try that. So jump in a warm shower, get that body temperature down, cooling the body temperature, and start bringing, what this does, it brings sleep in naturally, because, the things like switching off your iPads, your iPhones, and anything electrical. I haven't actually got any of that in there, because that's kind of common sense, really. But that natural process, things like reading as well helps. But we're talking about the shower here. But if you take a nice warm shower, you're naturally allowing your body just to fall into that sleep. And the last one is get an early night. Yeah, get an early night, and we're going to add onto this. So it's get an early night and go to bed at the same time every night. Like, have a time where you go to bed, whatever that is for you, whether it's 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, whatever that is. Personally, I prefer earlier. I go to bed about 10 o'clock in the night. It just works for me. It means that I get up at 5 o'clock, so I'm getting kind of 7 hours sleep. Sometimes I'll go to bed a little bit earlier, if, depending on my day, if I feel really tired. I generally get to kind of 9 o'clock, and I need to go to bed. And that's when I'll start my nighttime routine. Kind of already 8:30, 9 o'clock, I'll start it. Sometimes I'll actually speed the process up, just so I can get to bed earlier. Maybe I'll go for a quicker walk, these types of things. But if you have that regularity with the daytime, with the time that you go to bed, your body has this natural body clock will set at a certain time. So say you go to bed at 9 o'clock on the night, or say 10 o'clock on the night, then if you do this and it becomes habitual, your body clock will adapt to that 10 o'clock. So your sleep becomes more regular and more natural. So if you say you go in a shower at say 9:30, and then you're winding down, you're getting into bed, maybe you do a little bit of reading, whatever it is. Then you get into bed at that 10 o'clock, and you naturally fall asleep, and this becomes normal. So you normally go to sleep at 10 o'clock, you wake up, you start waking up at a natural time as well. Like I get up, I do set an alarm clock for 5 o'clock. If I didn't set an alarm clock, I would probably get up about 6:30. But I get up early because, I've got kids, and I find if I get up early at 5 o'clock, then I can get a lot more done. I'm actually very productive. So I do have to set an alarm clock for 5 o'clock, but I don't wake up tired. My alarm clock goes up and I spring out of bed. I actually feel alive when I get up. And it's just because I've ingrained that habit of going to bed at the same time. Going to bed at the same time every night. It's helped develop my body clock, and that's just kind of where I'm at. And it's absolutely game changing for your productivity and your sleep. So let me just quickly go through them again. I'll just summarize what they are. So the first one is the 7 habits of a powerful evening routine. The first one is take a walk. The second one, write out your 3 biggest next day priorities. The third one is write out gratitude. The fourth one, write down 3 wins for the day. So write down your 3 wins for that day, whatever they are. Doesn't matter how big, it doesn't matter how small. Write down 3 wins for the day. The fifth one is request to your subconscious. Don't go to bed without a request to your subconscious. The sixth one is take a warm shower. And the 7th one is get an early night and make that nighttime to go to bed regular. Make it the same time every single night. Build that pattern up. So that was it. So that was your 7 habits of a powerful nighttime routine. Honestly, if you start doing this, you start putting this nighttime routine in, it will make such a difference to your productivity, your sleep, and your focus the next day. We're talking about personal performance here, yeah? Personal performance. You want to grow a business, you want to be productive, you want to be creative. You've got to manage your morning routine and your nighttime routine. You've got to think about personal performance, and that's what this is. So thank you for listening. Thank you for being here and listening today. Hope that was insightful. Again, as always, just let me know how you found that. Send me an email. If there's any way that you'd like us to improve the show, please, again, let me know how that is. And enjoy the rest of your week. Thank you for listening to the show today. I appreciate your time and I appreciate you being here. If you would like some free resources to help you with your business, then click in the show notes. There is some free training and there's also a link to my free group. If you could also share this podcast with anybody that you think would benefit from it, because this helps us actually develop the podcast and spread our message to a wider audience. So that would be very, very grateful if you could do that. And leave us a comment. Let me know how you are actually finding the show and how we can best serve you. So thank you for being here today. Click on the link in the show notes and I hope to see you in my free group.